Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling like you were the problem, but somewhere deep in your body, you knew that you weren't? What if the next time someone came at you, your body already knew what to do? So welcome everyone to the Love Yourself Loudly podcast. I'm Dr. Nina, your girl, and I'm so glad that you're here. Hopefully, this episode will answer the question, if you've been Googling at 3 a.m., am I the problem? Now, there's a caveat to this episode, which is that if you need to apologize for something, if you truly hurt someone's feelings, if you're getting defensive in a relationship, at work, your romantic partnership, or with a friend, take ownership. So this is one of the four horsemen. There are two researchers named Gottman and Gottman. They are husband and wife. They do lots of research on couples. And one of the four horsemen, there's four that contribute to divorce. One of them is someone who is defensive. If you're defensive, if you feel like your armor is up, take ownership, take responsibility for that. That's an entirely different episode than what I'm going to be speaking about today. So if you want that kind of an episode, please comment, let me know. But this is definitely not it. This is for my sensitive ones, for those types of individuals that apologize if you didn't do anything wrong, the kind of people who someone bumps into you and then you're apologizing. If you're at the movie theater and someone says, enjoy your show, and you say, you too, that automatic reflex, of course, it's out of kindness, out of acknowledgement for someone else's presence. At some point, it turns into responsibility for other people's actions. Now, this comes from a very sensitive place. Usually my sensitive ones, we might have grown up in experiences where you were absorbing the emotions in your home. You were taking responsibility for them. You were problem solving, maybe for your caregivers or other siblings in the home. You were the peacemaker. You were trying to make sure everything was okay in order to stay safe and ensure that you were getting the love that you so deserve as a child. It's automatic. It's unconscious. However, in adulthood, this can really be problematic. And again, it's coming from a good place. But what do we do in these situations where we are not the problem, but we're starting to take ownership of other people's responsibilities? And it reminds me of that song, It's Me, Hi. And I don't want to sing the rest of it, but you know, I'm the problem. It's me, right? So let's get into it. Now, we talked about who this episode is for, and maybe you're identifying with that. So even write in the comments, what is it like to be someone who takes responsibility, who takes ownership? Maybe part of you feels kind of prideful in the fact that you're able to take ownership. Maybe part of you feels needed. I'm able to show up for people. I'm able to help them through. That makes me feel really good. So that might be part of your identity. So some of this might feel a little jarring or really uncomfortable, or you might be listening to me speak and kind of in your mind hearing that voice that says, no, you are the problem. You're the reason things don't go well. And so this episode is also for you because the self-compassion is real, the practice of that. And it's not easy because it's not a muscle that we all conditioned early on. So just be gentle with yourself throughout this episode. So the first thing I want to talk about when it comes to criticism, because this is what it's about, right? People are unconsciously projecting their insecurities onto us. And usually it comes in the form of criticism, biting comments, passive aggression. So in the moment, you might even feel so nervous about what's being said that you may not even know how to respond in the moment. So I just want to take a moment and just normalize that. Sometimes people catch you off guard. Usually most of us are not walking around in defense mode, ready to fight, right? Most of us are just in deep connection, having fun, saying hello. And so we're not really thinking about, let me prepare a response if somebody says something that is critical toward me. So the first thing that you want to do is take notice of how you're feeling in your body, ensuring that you're grounded in these situations or conversations that you're having with other people. So that can look like taking a deep breath, rolling your shoulders back, as I just did if you're watching the video, and really getting deeply embodied. And being grounded is everywhere on the internet right now. And people are like, what the hell does that mean? Usually I like to look at my hands. If my hands are pinkish on the palms or my feet, if I feel warmth in my hands and my feet, if overall my stomach doesn't feel nauseous, it's feeling calm, my chest is feeling calm, my shoulders are back, those are pretty good indications that I'm grounded. But if, I have maybe a headache or my jaw is really tense, my stomach is in knots, there's heat in my body, those might be signs that I'm not grounded. So first, ensuring that you're grounded and you're taking deep breaths in conversation. And if someone is projecting their insecurities onto you, and again, it could be in many different forms. It could be, the most common is criticism, biting comments, anything that just doesn't feel good. If your shoulders are back, your head is kind of a little bit more up to the sky, you almost feel as if that energy is just bouncing right off of you. It's not internalizing the same way as if you were hunched over, kind of looking up, but your head is down. We absorb the energy. We take on the responsibility of that other person's insecurities. And now we have to list them on top of our own insecurities. It's like another thing that I now have to digest and deal with. And so deflecting it through posture and the nervous system, there's a lot of research on that, can really help when you come into interaction with someone who's criticizing you. And again, I want you to think about different examples of this. It could be your boss. It could be your romantic partner. It could be a friend. It could be your kid. Anyone who you might be interacting with quite commonly on a daily basis. Another thing that could be helpful is clearing your aura. And I know it's kind of like cheesy and silly sometimes the way we might hear it, like, oh, just imagine there's a gold bubble around you. And then those criticisms or any energy that doesn't feel good coming towards you just sort of bounces off. So I always share this one with a little bit of like, do it if it feels good to you. When I was in grad school, I worked at a career center. I used to edit resumes and I worked with a woman. Her name is Yaz. So Yaz, what up? She was awesome. And anytime we had like a group of people that we worked with, all graduate assistants, and anytime someone was having a bad day, we would fluff their aura. And so we would start at their feet, like maybe 3 or 4 of us. And we would do, if you're watching on video, I'm sort of like fluffing the air. We would do this kind of motion and we'd start at the bottom and kind of fluff it all the way to the top of their head. Everyone thought like, oh, that's kind of weird. It's kind of cheesy, but to me, it worked. If I was having a bad day, I would just like tell my boss and she would be like, okay, everybody, let's come together and like fluff Nina's aura. And we would do it for everyone in the office. So if that works for you, definitely use it. And if imagining an aura around you as someone is criticizing you helps you, do it. Do what feels right to you. Do what feels good in your body, whatever it takes to keep the breath steady, to keep it deep and calm, whatever you can do to stay grounded, because from that place, you can respond instead of react, which is what we normally do. We either like shut down and run away, or we like yell back or whatever it is. That's reaction. But responding comes from a very grounded, level, deep, deep, deep breath place. That's the first thing I wanted to share. It's just about our body and how important it is to listen to it when we're thinking about how individuals might project their insecurities onto us. So now that we talked about how we internalize projection onto our body or someone's insecurities or criticism, it's also good to talk about what's happening in our minds and how can we fix our words to respond in a way that just shuts the other person down in their criticism. Now, we don't have to be rude. We don't have to be mean. However, it's important that we come prepared with a few sayings or something that can help us when we're in a jam, when we're feeling like we're absorbing someone else's stuff. And you know what that feels like. It just feels icky. So you know the feeling. And sometimes in the moment, we freeze and we can't think of like, oh, what should I have said in the moment? I always think of those moments where you're in an interaction with someone, maybe your boss is criticizing you or something's going on. And then later you get home and maybe you're in the shower washing your face or something. And then you create the comeback in your mind. I mean, and you know the feeling. So write in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. But that feeling that you get when you're just like, oh, I know what I could have said. And then you just feel shame. You feel like it's like a shame spiral. Then you just feel bad about yourself. Oh, why didn't I say that thing? Here I am and I'm creating the thing I could have said and I didn't say it. So coming prepared is a good thing. I'm not saying coming prepared to fight. Like I'm not trying to teach people to like go into the world and like just prepare that someone's going to knock you down. That's not the place I'm coming from. We want to assume good intention with people. But having a few phrases helps you take an exit to the dynamic that someone is bringing you into. So this is a dynamic that's playing out. Someone is projecting their insecurity onto you so that they can feel better about themselves, because whatever the insecurity is, it's too difficult for them to tolerate. And so if we're thinking about it energetically, they're pushing it onto you. So what you're doing is you're exiting. You're like exiting stage left so that that can get projected somewhere else. Maybe it's just to the air. Maybe it's to another person. Like, hopefully it's not to another person. And ultimately, that energy, we're hoping that the projection goes back to the person who needs to own it, who needs to digest it, who needs to bring that into their own therapy or coaching or whatever they're doing, to look in the mirror and see, why do I feel this way? Where does this come from in my history? Again, this is for someone else to digest and not for you as the sensitive human being to digest. So I wrote down a few phrases. That's why I have my paper in front of me, because I wanted to read them off. So again, think of these as exits, not debates. You're not trying to win. You're not playing the game. So I wrote down, for a dig at your personality or how you are, like your general mannerisms or something like that. You might be like, yeah, that's just me. Kind of breezy, owning it, zero apology. Or you might say something like, I'm actually pretty comfortable with that. You're basically saying that like whatever you're laughing at me about or whatever you're picking on me for, I already feel pretty good about that thing. Whether it's like the sound of my voice or the way that I laugh, I'm just comfortable with that. So that for sure is a great exit. Now, for when someone over-explains something you already know, you can say, I actually know this one. It's calm, no edge. It kind of closes it down. Or, yeah, I'm familiar. I've been in this space a while. So especially if someone's telling you about something at work that you know very well, it's good to just, I got this. And so there's this whole mansplaining in the zeitgeist. And a lot of people do that, right? The understanding is, I can't be valued for who I am and showing up to this conversation. I have to prove what I know for you to see value in my life. And so again, we're not excusing the behavior, but it's helpful to understand why people come with that kind of vibe where they just want to explain everything to you. It's annoying, but just knowing that it comes from a place of, I just want you to value me, it makes sense. But it doesn't mean you have to take it on. And this is what I mean by the exit. This gives you an exit when you can just say, I already know that thing. And then you can come from like a general understanding when you're having the conversation. If you say, I already know that thing, then now you start from there. Now you can have probably a more meaningful conversation when both people are level and saying they understand the same information. And maybe you can go deeper in the conversation. And if someone gets annoyed by that, or if someone feels offended that you said, I already know, then let them be that way. Okay. So for a subtle dig, when you just don't want to engage, you say, interesting. You're saying it flat and the conversation just hopefully ends. You might say, we just might see this differently. I think that's a good one to use. I use that a lot. And one of the suggestions is, I haven't heard that before, honestly. So you're just generally saying like, haven't heard that before. You're not arguing what they're saying. You're not telling them that they're wrong, because that will keep you in the dynamic that you don't like. So this is going to give you a quick exit. And the goal isn't hypervigilance. You're not building an arsenal. This is just important for you to have in your back pocket, because these situations come up all the time, unfortunately. We're all insecure in some kind of way because we're human. And so some people project their insecurities, some people bury them and they withdraw. Just honoring that, knowing that it's human, and also being very, very mindful of not taking responsibility for it. Okay. So say you're in a conversation with someone and they are projecting, and you're just, you're getting hit with it hard. In that situation, say the moment is over, they walk away, you walk away. Maybe you didn't have those sayings in your back pocket. Maybe they completely just, all their insecurities all over you, and you didn't say anything. Maybe you continue to meet up with that person over and over, and they continue to do it. We're in all kinds of situations and dynamics, and these dynamics can play out in our romantic partnerships. This is someone that you may see every day. It could be a dynamic at work with a colleague. It can be with a friend. And first, have compassion for yourself because you may have been dealing with this dynamic for years and that doesn't feel good. Sometimes we feel a little bit of shame around that or guilt. Why can't I stand up for myself? Why can't I just tell that person to stop projecting on me? It's not my fault. Why can't I just stand up for myself? I won't take the way that you're talking to me. I won't let you criticize me. We can feel guilty for not owning that, not speaking up. And so first, the step is having compassion for yourself. You're not a bad person. You didn't do anything wrong. Have compassion that you're in a difficult dynamic and have compassion for the fact that you're not sure what to do about it. Have compassion for the fact that you didn't know what to say in the moment and it only came to you later after the conversation passed, but you know that it's uncomfortable. You know it doesn't feel good. And sometimes we make excuses first. We say, that was a good person. We have fun together. But most of the time we laugh. So maybe I should just take it. Maybe I should just be quiet and let them project their insecurities on me because in all other aspects, they're nice people. And overall, the relationship's okay. And if you're listening to that and you're thinking, yeah, that's me. That's me with my partner, or that's me with this particular friend. You're not alone. We all are in some kind of dynamic like this at some point in our life. And just noticing that dynamic is the first step. And so the first thing that you want to do is have compassion for yourself. I'm allowed to feel upset about how this person is treating me. I don't care if mostly we have a good relationship. It's okay that I feel angry. It's all right if I feel disrespected. It's understandable that I feel irritated by this person. So just honoring all those feelings, fully processing the feelings, digesting the feelings is always the first step. Once we have compassion for ourselves, the stress comes down and we're able to engage with ourselves in a meaningful way. And it also opens up biologically an opportunity for us to have compassion for the other person. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't want to have compassion for that person. They did it on purpose. That's okay. Just be with that within yourself. Maybe get curious about where that comes from, where you don't want to have compassion for someone who might be struggling. And again, it's okay. It's okay. There might have been an experience you had earlier in your life that made you feel that way. Again, no one is an evil person. And I'm speaking outside of clinical presentations where maybe some people are more apt to vilify. It's important that I share that these are not black and white situations. No one is 100% bad and no one is 100% good. We all have dynamic to our presentation, how we show up, our personality. And so I want to make that very clear that someone who is projecting onto us, they're not bad. I think it's important as you're thinking about these relationships that you have in your life to kind of look at that no one's this way or that way. We all have dynamics within ourselves and you just have to discern. And I think that's the discernment piece is key. You have to discern or decide what kind of dynamics you're going to allow in your life. Even though the person might be a good person, it might be a dynamic that's playing out that's just not healthy for your life. And so assessing it that way is so key because if you're telling yourself, oh, I don't like the dynamic and how it's playing out, but they're really fun to go to the movies with. They're really funny. We laugh until we cry. Then you're preserving the relationship for, of course, the laughs. And I'm sure that's great, but you're preserving the dynamic that's not making you feel good. Now, not every relationship is worth your energy. It's really important to understand that because we interact with all kinds of individuals all day. And if you were like using some of these skills on every single person, you would just exhaust yourself. It's important to think about for your life, who is worth the conversation and who isn't. So the closer the person is to you, I'm assuming those would be the relationships that would be best to have these conversations with. And you also have to think about the listener because you don't want to share with someone who you know gets defensive very easily and is not going to be able to hear your perspective. That might be someone that you say, okay, I'm just not going to have the conversation with because it doesn't feel safe. Because it's important to share how you feel with people who can provide an emotionally safe space to do it. And some people you have to take a chance on. And I think for most relationships, we have to take a chance because yes, the person might be overall very understanding, but if you're bringing up something that they're doing that bothers you, that might hit something in particular for them that might be too vulnerable for them, and they may deny it. And so, yes, at some point you do have to just like take a chance, but kind of assess the chance to see, is this a person that's generally understanding? Those are the people you want to go with. But if the person is like always offensive, always talking about how people are, coming at them or whatever, that may not be the right person to have this conversation with. But definitely pick and choose because it does take energy to do this, especially if your nervous system is not wired to stand up for yourself. It's just going to be hard every single time for a while until your nervous system can understand that it's okay to do it and it's safe to do it. So another thing is resentment. So I kind of talked about this before, having compassion for yourself if you go years and years without calling out the dynamic where you have to stay small in order for the relationship to work. However, I want you to know that the longer you wait to have the conversation, the resentment is going to build and build and build. And it may show up in ways that you don't expect by being passive aggressive to the person. Maybe you're not answering their calls anymore. Maybe you're starting to ghost them more when they want to hang out or spend time with you. Or maybe if at work, you're trying to avoid them and work on different projects. And so you might become resentful because maybe you wanted to be on that team. Maybe you wanted to work on that project. You felt passionate about it, but you switched because you didn't want to be around that person. And so resentment is real. And the more and more you feel it, it becomes your thing that you're holding versus about the other person. And that's just an extra weight that we don't want to carry, especially with everything going on in this world. I also want to bring up the softer point that the closer someone is to you, the more risk is at play because that person can reject you. That person can tell you, well, if you don't like this dynamic, then leave. I don't like what you're saying about me. I'm leaving. And that can be really painful. It can be really scary. And maybe thinking about that person not in your life feels scary. It feels worrisome. It feels unknown. And having another unknown in a world and a society that is very uncertain can feel too difficult to bear. So I wanted to just give that gentle thought because it is really hard to make these choices. I want to share an experience that I had in my own life. This is years ago, but I do think it rings true to this topic. And hopefully it can help you think about your own life and dynamics that have come across you where you had to choose to leave. This is with a dear friend that I had for many years. And she was incredible. She remembered every birthday. She was so thoughtful. If I ever had a problem, she was right there to listen to me. And we just had a lot of fun together. And I loved spending time with her. We just had a very sisterly relationship that I really enjoyed so much. And I always looked for friends that could be just as thoughtful and friends that would send friends that would send you long text messages or voice notes and just really engage in each other's lives. And that was this friend. Over the course of time, and especially as I was growing in my own life journey, I noticed a dynamic that was playing out where she would take little digs at me. She was over explaining concepts that I already knew. And it was almost like a teacher. She was creating this teacher-student relationship with me where she was explaining things and concepts and almost as if she was lecturing me. And I was like, where is this coming from? We had like the same education. We studied the same types of topics, but there was something just playing out that just felt really uncomfortable to me. And for a while, I never said anything. Sometimes I would kind of like redirect the conversation or talk about something else, but the dynamic continued where I had to stay small and she would just continue to lecture and lecture and lecture. And at some point, I just couldn't take it anymore. I just thought, this has to stop. And this is kind of like the example I was sharing earlier. This is the type of friend I really thought was going to sit down with me, own up, take responsibility and really talk through, okay, how can we make this relationship better? Because you're my friend and I really care about this relationship. So that's literally what is playing out in my mind. I was like, there's no way that it's going to go anything but that. So much to my surprise, I brought it up. If you're a sensitive person, you know this. You're like overplaying the conversation in your mind. So I like really practiced with myself how I was going to deliver the message. I didn't want it to land a certain way. I wanted to protect all what I thought the sensitivities might be. I think I even might have practiced it in my own therapy session to make sure I was saying everything correctly. And I said exactly what I had practiced saying. I feel X when you do Y. And she completely denied it. She said it didn't happen. She said, I made it up. And I was devastated. I was really disappointed. And honestly, I felt disrespected. How could she not honor my feelings? How could she not validate my experience of this dynamic? And how could she not honor the fact that I wanted equality in the friendship? Being that I am a woman of color, that is something that is extremely important to me in my relationships, being treated equally. When she denied the dynamic that was playing out in our friendship, I was deeply hurt, and she denied my experience. This is someone who has the skills to take ownership, who has the skills to honor and validate other people's emotions. And she has done so in other situations, but not this one. Not this one where I highlighted a very sensitive insecurity of hers, and she didn't want to face it. And it cost the friendship. If someone were to ask me today, would I have done it again if I were to go back? Hell yeah. I don't want to disappear in a friendship. I don't want to be small so that someone else can feel good about themselves. That's not my job. I didn't come on this earth to do that. I'm here to be loud. I'm here to be myself. And if I can't be myself in this friendship, I'm gone. I had to trust myself. I had to trust that when this person leaves, a new friend will come in who doesn't need that dynamic to play out. In this particular friendship, love was conditional. It was conditional on me being small, being the student, not speaking up, and I wasn't going to do that. So it's a risk. And I could have sat here and told you a story about a friendship where I spoke up and they understood and the relationship changed, but those aren't the best movies anyway. If I told that, you guys would think that would be super boring. So I wanted to share something that doesn't have a happy ending. And look, I'm all right. I'm okay. And even now, I don't think of this person as a bad person. It was just a particular insecurity that she had that I wasn't willing to suffer inside of or take on myself. And so even today, this is like someone that I wish well. I hope that she has a beautiful life because that's what everyone deserves. And I hope that she's able to free herself from the insecurity. And you don't know the way that friendships interweave throughout your life. It could be that you say goodbye to a friend or a colleague or relationship, and you meet up down the line in a different capacity when people have grown and when they've done their work. Sometimes we reconnect and sometimes we don't. And that's where the grief comes in as well, is that like, yeah, I had to grieve this friendship, the dynamic, the fun we had, just like you may have to do. You might have to grieve that work bestie that you loved so much and that you would gossip with and have fun with, or that relationship where you did have a romantic connection and you did have chemistry, but there was a dynamic playing out that just wasn't suiting you to be your highest, biggest self. So now that we've recognized that caretaker role, we've talked a little bit about where it comes from. It comes from our childhood, just like everything else. It's going to be my answer to a lot of things on this podcast, but it's true. But hey, it gives us a little compassion. Like, look, we all have childhoods. We didn't all have the perfect families. Even if you, in your mind, you think it was perfect, it probably wasn't perfect. And so we all have something that we're healing with or healing from. We have to unlearn that caretaker role, taking responsibility for other people's feelings. That's an everyday interaction. It's a muscle that you practice with every day, and you just get better and better about it, and it becomes more automatic. Every time you recognize that it's happening, it becomes something you're aware of. And if you choose differently, you're breaking a cycle. I hope that feels good to you. Could literally be someone texting you their emotional experience in real time. Oh, I'm so mad because my boss is right here and they said this thing to me and I don't know what to do about it. It might be just looking at the text, taking a breath and saying, these feelings I am not responsible for. I'm going to put the phone down, let that person process their own emotional experience in real time. And when I feel ready to respond, I'll do so later, once there's less emotional charge around it. Now, I'm talking about the sensitive types that are doing that for everyone on their phone. So if you're like, don't do it that much and your growth edge is to like engage more and help people more, that's another conversation. But who I'm talking to in this episode are those of you who are very sensitive, who are very calming to other people. Maybe you're the person that gets in the Uber and like the Uber driver is telling you their whole life experience and you walk out of the car and you're like, how did that happen? It's those small practices of, you know what? I asked for a quiet ride today. Thank you. Or again, like I described earlier, waiting to answer that text once the person is out of the emotional trigger. Let them go to someone else for that in the moment processing. Give yourself a break. Learn to process your feelings first, prioritizing your emotional experience. Asking yourself, what am I feeling right now? Maybe you get out an emotion wheel. You can like Google them online. Literally, you can get like free emotion wheels. They're like these colorful wheels. Look at the colorful wheel. I know it's cheesy, but it really works. And say, what am I feeling right now? What emotions do I need to process? And how can I ask for help? Maybe it's a therapist. Maybe it's asking a friend. Maybe you don't reach out to friends when you're going through something hard. You just digest it all on your own. Maybe you decide to reach out to someone who's been saying to you for a long time, come to me, I'd be happy to help. Maybe you ask them for help. That's the shift. That's the change. It happens one experience, one interaction at a time, one moment at a time. You don't have to practice with the most meaningful relationship in your life. You can practice with a colleague, a friend, someone in a restaurant. Practicing really does condition the muscle. And soon it won't be as difficult. It won't be as hard because you've conditioned yourself to respond differently and exit when the insecurity is not yours to take on. And that is freedom. Where in your life are you absorbing something that is not yours to carry? Is there a relationship where you've been holding your tongue? And what's that costing you? What's one small way that you can practice having your own back this week? Thank you for listening. I'm Dr. Nina, and this is Love Yourself Loudly. Okay, so real quick, this is for entertainment purposes only. This is not therapy or medical advice. If you're having a hard time, please reach out to a licensed professional. If this episode hit home, please share it with someone who might enjoy it as well. You already know who it is. If you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And if you're listening to the podcast form, please rate and review. It helps this podcast reach the people who really, truly need it. Now, the most important thing is come find me on social and say hi. You can find me at Dr. Nina Paulinet or Love Yourself Loudly podcast. Until next time, love yourself loudly. I'm Dr. Nina, and I'm not sorry about it.